Gary had eye surgery.
We're good.
There
President.
should be two of these.
Good.
Okay. It's 7:03 on January 16th. I call the council meeting to order. Roll call.
Bennett.
Here.
Bertolo.
Here.
Excuse me. Lane.
Here.
Mealy.
Here.
Sinning.
He's not going to make it tonight. He called me and said he was feeling a little under the weather.
Thank you. Watecki.
Present.
Matthews.
Here. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the annual schedule of regular meetings, herefore adopted and posted on the public bulletin board at the municipal building, emailed to the Hawthorne Press, the Herald News, the Record, the Gazette, and all persons who have requested the mailing of such schedule. And a copy of said schedule has remained on file in the office of the Borough Clerk from and since November 29, 2018. Approval of minutes. Can I have the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of December 19, 2018, and January 2nd, 2019, and the bid minutes for the rebid of the tennis court rehab project?
So moved.
Motion by Bertolo, second by Bennett. Any discussion? Roll call.
Watecki.
Yes.
Mealy.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Bertolo.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public comment, and now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard on agenda items, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address. If you're here for the assessment and you have comments, that would be later on, or I guess you could do that now if you really wanted to. During the public, correct, Michael?
You can do it any way you would like. You can do it after the
Presentation?
presentation if you choose.
That'd be better. Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion by Bertolo, second by Watecki. Motion carries. We have a presentation about our borough revaluation. I know there's been a lot of concern with different ideas of whether my taxes are going to go up, go down, stay the same. So we have the appraisal company here tonight to give a presentation on the process, explain when they're going to come, how they're going to come up with values. So before I begin, I'll turn it over to Tim Henderson, who is our tax assessor, and he'll introduce the players that are here to present tonight.
Good job.
Yes, okay. Tonight we have Rob Brescia and Rick Del Gercio from Appraisal Systems. They're going to do a quick presentation on the evaluation process. They're going to use this PowerPoint presentation. The PowerPoint presentation will also be posted on their website. There'll be a link to their website on the borough website, hawthornenewjersey.org. Anybody that in the audience can take a look at that at any time. So without further ado, I'll let them go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Tim. My name is Rick Del Gercio. I'm the president of Appraisal Systems. We're a revaluation company. I have Rob Brescia with me. He's designated as the on-the-ground project manager for the upcoming project. As you know, Hawthorne was ordered by the Passaic County Board of Taxation to do a revaluation. We're here tonight to just give a brief presentation of the step-by-step as to what we're going to do over the course of this year, 2019. As you know, this order was for the 2020 tax list. All the folks in town will be paying taxes in 2019 based on the same assessments that were in place from last year. And the project that we put on the books for 2020 will be effective for the tax bills that come out in the summer of 2020. So 2019 people will continue to pay taxes based on not our conclusions, but on what's already in place. As I start the PowerPoint presentation we brought tonight, just a couple of facts I think that people should know why why was Hawthorne ordered to do a revaluation by the county board? Well, the last time it was done was 1989. It's been 30 years. Your ratio of assessed values to selling prices is at 47.13%. What that means is that the selling prices in town, on average, are a little more than double what the assessments are. So, in 1989, these assessments represented true market value, but in 2019, they're grossly off. Other statistics that come into play for the order, or the reasons for the order, would be coefficient of deviation. That's a statistical tool that measures uniformity between assessments. Again, anytime you have a 30-year period that goes by, you have different areas of town that move up or down with the market at different rates, different property classes, whether it be the commercials or the industrials or the apartments, 2 families, 3 families versus single families. A lot has happened over the last 30 years. We've seen several booms and several busts in that time frame. So at this point in time, I think it's fair to say that the assessments need to be completely redone from scratch. So taking all of those things into consideration, the tax board decided it's time. You selected us. We're thankful for that. So I'm going to turn it over to Rob, the project manager, who's going to go through the 7 steps taking us to the completion of the project.
You left out the most important reason. Because the city of Patterson sued us, and that's what forced the county to create this issue. Let's not understate that.
Yes, that came into play as well, correct.
Big time, not just come into play, it was big time.
Yeah.
How often do you typically reevaluate? I know you look at the percentages of up and above, but in our instance, perfect world, when should we reevaluate after this reevaluation? Is 30 years a typical period? Is it 25?
Well, we work in, my firm works in every county in the state of New Jersey, and every county has its own board that makes its own determination. And on average, I would say typically every 5 to 10 years, the county boards order. You know, City of Passaic is a little behind that average. But I like to say it really is not a matter of the number of years, it's the matter of the market itself. If you have stable market values over a 10-year period with nominal increases or level increases, I would say 10 years is fine. But if you have an environment where you do a revaluation and there's drastic changes in the market, whether it's a boom or whether it's a bust, I think you need to do it again as soon as possible. For example, I did revaluations in 2005, 2006, 2007, and then after 2008, by 2009, my numbers were way off. Okay. Conversely, I did revaluations in 2000, 2001, 2002, and by 2005, 2006, those numbers were way off on the low side. So I think really it all has to do with the market itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, once again, my name is Rob Rescher, and I'm going to be the project manager of this job. And I'll take you through the 7 steps of the revaluation process. The presentation is about 10 to 15 minutes long, and then we'll stick around for any questions that anyone may have. So the first step in the revaluation process is the inspection part. Now, before we start our inspections, every property owner is going to receive an introduction letter from our company with a brochure, and this serves as a kickoff to the revaluation process, and it tells the property owners that the inspection process is about to begin. Now, each one of our inspectors will be wearing an appraisal systems ID that looks exactly like this ID on this slide right here. These IDs will be authorized by the police. The police will have a copy of this ID as well as the assessor's office. So if any homeowner has any questions as to who that person is at their door, we encourage them to call our company, the police, or the assessor's office to verify that that person is who they say they are. And we really would like to get the word out to the property owners that please do not let anyone into your property or on your property that does not have this proper identification. Now, the inspection process itself has two components. There's a site inspection, and then the inspection of your property. Now, the site inspection takes place before the inspector actually steps foot onto the property. He or she will look at the surrounding area to see if there's any positive or negative influences that may affect the value. So this slide here shows how site influence can affect your property value in a positive way. If a property has a lake view or a city line view, that could cause the value to go up. This slide here shows how a site influence could affect your property in a negative way. If you have a property that's located right next to a railroad track, or your house is located on a busy street, those are negative influences. If you have easements that cut through your property, such as this one in the slide where you have high tension power lines, those are all negative influences that could affect the property's value. So this again all takes place before the inspector steps foot onto the property. So after the site inspection comes the exterior inspection. So our inspectors, they go door to door, they knock on the door, and they'll perform an exterior inspection. So what they're going to do is they're going to measure all the structures on the property, and then they're going to create a sketch of those structures. So this slide here shows the final product of what one of our sketches would look like. So our inspectors walk around with tablets, they collect all the information, and then that information from the tablet gets uploaded into our accounting program, and that's the program that we use to place the values on these properties. Now, since we're going door to door for these exterior inspections, a lot of times when we knock on the door, the homeowner's not home. So what we're going to do in that case is we're going to leave a sticker card on their door, and we call this our yellow callback card. So if the property owner is not home, we're going to leave this card, and it has an appointment on the card. So it will tell the property owner what day and what time we'll be coming back to try to perform that interior inspection. Now, when we do these appointments, we try to schedule them in the evening hours, typically between 5 and 7. The reason for that is if we come around during the first visits between 9 and 5 and the homeowner's not home, we're going to assume that they're not typically home during those hours, all the time, so we try to schedule these in the evenings. Now, if this day and time is not good for the property owner, there'll be a phone number that they could call to schedule, a mutually convenient time, anytime that, works for them. And that brings us to the interior inspection. So the interior inspection will take place during that first visit if the property owner is home. If not, it should take place during those callback hours. Now, the interior inspection usually takes about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the size of the house. And what the inspector is going to do is they're going to walk on all the levels of the house, and they're going to take notes such as number of bedrooms. They're going to look to see what type of heat the house has, whether or not the house has central air, see if the house has fireplaces, and things of that nature. They're also going to look at the overall condition of the house, and they're going to look at the condition of the kitchens and bathrooms. So this slide here just shows an example of all the different types of kitchens you could have with the different conditions and qualities. This slide here is same concept. This just shows you different conditions and qualities of bathrooms. So the inspectors will be looking for that. The inspectors are also going to look for basements and attics with fixed stairs, and they're going to look to see if those areas are finished, and if so, whether or not that finished area has heat, and then they're going to look to see the overall quality and condition of those finished areas. So again, this slide just shows different types of conditions and qualities of finished basements. Now, if the inspector comes back during those callback hours for that appointment and the homeowner is not home again, what the inspector is going to do is leave another card on the door, and this is called our blue estimate card. So what the inspector is going to do is it's going to tell the homeowner what their property is going to be listed as having if we do not gain access to that house by the end of the project. Now, case law states that if we do not gain entry into the house, we have to estimate the interior at the highest, most reasonable potential. So what that means is you don't gain access, it's reasonable to assume that the kitchens and bathrooms have been redone. If the house has a basement, it would be reasonable to assume that the basement is finished. Okay? It is unreasonable to assume that, a Cape Cod style home has 10 bathrooms. So what we're going to do is we're going to list on this card what that house will have. It's not going to tell you the value of the house, just what the house is going to be listed as having. So if a homeowner comes home and they see this card with what their house is going to be listed with, if that information is incorrect, again, there will be a number on that card that they could call, and we'll send an inspector out right away to correct that information. For condos and townhouses, the inspection process is the exact same. The inspector will perform a site inspection, an exterior inspection, and an interior inspection. Really, the only difference is with some condos, instead of trying to measure the individual units, we will try to rely on the master deeds to get the square footage, the layout of the unit, and the type of unit. Now, the second step is our analyzation step. Now, this happens as step one is going on. As the inspectors are collecting the information in the field, that information, like I said, gets uploaded into our camera program, and then the appraisers at the office are analyzing that information. We're studying the market to see what the market's doing. And one of the first things that we do is we carve up the town into homogeneous neighborhoods, and we create a neighborhood map. Now, our company is held to 2 standards by the state. We have to try to come as close to 100% market value as possible, and we have to be uniform in our methods in achieving that value. So by creating these neighborhoods, we could compare similar properties, and it helps us be uniform in our methods. Step number 3 takes place once we collected all the data. We analyze all the data, and we actually start placing values on the properties. What we'll do is we'll print out numerous reports to make sure we're comfortable with our values. Once we're comfortable with our values, we'll send out our value letters. Now, by law, we cannot send these value letters out till after November 10th. So this stage in the process won't occur to mid-November to late November. Okay? So what we're going to do by first-class mail, we're going to send every property owner a value letter telling them what their new assessment could be. Now, at this stage, these values are still preliminary. The job is not done at this time. We're still collecting information. After these value letters are sent out, each property owner will have the opportunity to meet with one of our representatives one-on-one for an informal meeting. What we'll do is we'll go over their property record card. We'll make sure all the objective information is correct. And we'll go over how we place their assessment on their property, how we arrived at that value. After all our informal meetings are concluded, we may make some adjustments, and that is when the end of the process occurs. Okay? This process, step number 6, when we submit all the information over to the town and the county, will probably be sometime in January, the end of January. This is when the process is complete. And like I said, we transfer everything over. And the final step of the revaluation process is the appeals. Our company will be responsible for defending these appeals at the county and state level.
So I would just add that step number 4, when we submit the value letters to the public, what Rob said when he said we are not done with the process at this point, this is the most crucial part of the process, where the transparency that we offer to what we've done and how we've done it is in my mind, is important in terms of the public relations effort, whereby we show the public everything that we have utilized in order to get to the point where we're putting a value on your property. That includes all of the sales that we looked at. It includes all of the neighborhoods that we've delineated. It includes all of the information contained on the property record card. It contains information relative to what we've done with other properties in town, the commercials in town. We put all of this data on our website, or we can bring all this data to a one-on-one meeting. But I think that the taxpayers will be very pleased with this effort because we don't hold anything back. And it's important to us to show the public that you know, we want to work with you to try and get to the fair market value of your house. If there's anything that you have that we might have missed or overlooked, you bring it to us at that point in time. Rob said mid-November, we'll still continue to go back out to properties if we have to look at items that, you know, we might have overlooked. We'll make changes during that time period because the goal is really to get to the point where the town is comfortable with the numbers that we put on. Because let's face it, that's essentially that's what you're going to be paying taxes on moving forward. So hopefully we satisfy everybody's question, but when Rob showed you the step 7 appeals to the County Board of Taxation, I think that's inevitable. The less amount of people that do that, the better. But I think it's important for the public to know that when they get their value letter, it's not written in stone at that point in time.
So that's what's going to be on our website when we send the value letters out in November. As of now, our website, if you go on our website, it has this presentation on there. And when we start the inspection process, what we'll do is we'll put up all our inspectors' information. We'll have the inspector's ID on there with a brief description of each inspector. And we'll also try to let the property owners know to the best of our ability when we'll be visiting their property. So we'll have a list that shows when that property was issued. So if a property owner goes onto that list and they see that their property has been issued, they could probably expect to have an inspection within the next couple of weeks. And then that list will also tell them what inspector should be visiting their property. So then they can go click on that inspector's information, see what he looks like, you know, get his car information, all of that stuff. So we really want to try to make this a comfortable, you know, process for, you know, the homeowners and the inspector as well. And we'll keep updating the website throughout the process.
And also those appointments that Rob talked about where you can call the office, you can go online and reschedule your appointments as well. We have an online scheduling tool which does that as well. So at this point, we'll open the floor to any questions.
What is the number of years that each inspector in your organization has as far as doing this process?
I would say on average, we're about 4 to 5 years. But more importantly, within 4 or 5 years, the average field person is doing about 2,000 some inspections. So I think it's very safe to say that every one of our inspectors coming here has measured it all, has seen it all, but more importantly, has dealt with a lot of different personality types. Because that, you know, every door you knock on, you're not only dealing with a different house that you have to measure, but you're dealing with a different personality that you have to communicate with.
What educational background do they have to do this?
Well, most of them are more than qualified based on the state standards for inspection. It varies from, some of them have their CPA, some of them have their classes that they've taken. They're all different levels, but for the most part, they're all, you know, college educated. Some younger than others, but
Are they all full-time employees with you, or are they?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been fortunate enough. My firm is the largest firm in the state. We have probably about 80 employees currently right now. We have other towns we're working on, but that's good in that I retain employees from job to job.
And I assume that they are all very professional and treat our residents with the utmost care?
Absolutely. That's important. Public relations is the most important aspect of what we do.
When they go into someone's house, do they take pictures?
No, they do not unless the homeowner wants them to take pictures of something that may potentially affect value. Typically, it's something that adversely affects value.
Gee.
Yeah, for example, water in the basement, cracks in the foundation, you know, that sort of thing. But pictures are taken from the outside.
Okay. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Dominic? Okay. Bruce? John?
Can a homeowner make a proactive appointment? Like if we go on a website and it looks like you're going to be in my neighborhood in the next 2 to 3 weeks, can I make an appointment and say, hey, I'm off on whatever day, if we can, so we
Yeah.
don't?
Yeah.
Okay. that's explained on the website to the homeowners, if they want to do that, or?
Yes, yeah. It was in the intro letter that's sent out. Yeah. The link to our website, which I'll repeat for tonight, www.asinj.com. We had talked, I think, briefly about having a link on the borough website that will direct you directly to our website, because I have a link within my website that's solely dedicated to the revaluation of Hawthorne. So I'll be working with your assessor to fine tune that, customize it. If there's any information the council wants me to put on that, I can put that on that. Every town has a custom page dedicated to them.
And when the process starts, approximately how many appraisers will be in town at the same time?
I would say 5.
Now, will they do the same area of town, or they're all
No,
in
no,
different
it's
directions?
important. I like to keep each person does their area typically based on tax map page.
Right.
And they'll stay within that area, so it'll be,
Obviously, the town will know when it begins, just only for the
course.
police department, so we can anticipate somebody calls, we have strangers walking in the neighborhood.
well, that's the first thing we do before we send guys out is we make sure the police has the report on not just the names and pictures of these field persons, but their car information, driver's license plate. A lot of people will see a car parked,
Right,
and they're walking up the street and coming back.
sure,
And the car will be there all day.
right.
So they'll call it in, and the police dispatch will, yeah, that's good ASI.
That's all I have.
Do you have markings on the cars that they use to be proactive, so they could say, like when Boswell Engineering is in the area, the vehicle has a little card that says Boswell Engineering or what have you?
We have in the past put, I think, door magnets on sometimes, or something in the windshield. But for the most part, I don't, these guys, they use their own vehicles.
So we use something called Nixle to alert residents of things that are happening throughout the community. Do you guys have something similar to that, or can you utilize, or could they utilize our Nixle to let them know they'll be in Ward 1, District 1 on streets this, and this?
We definitely plan to let people know when they're starting, but we can certainly, if we get the information of what areas they're going to be in, we can send out nixles. Obviously, the whole town gets a nixle, and if there's 20 different neighborhoods, that, you know, we'll be sending out something.
Yeah, that's why when I said we issue a property to an inspector, you could probably expect the inspection within a couple of weeks, because it's very hard to plan every inspection. You know, you got whether you're dealing with different sizes of houses. You know, sometimes you can do 20 measurements, 20 houses a day. Other days you can only do 5 to 10. So, you know, we could give an approximate of when we're going to be in your town, in your area. The good news is when you knock on that first door, the word tends to spread very quickly through the neighbors that the inspector's in town, you know, on your street, so they do know we're there. You know, it helps.
The reason I'm asking is for myself, I would take a personal day just to make sure that I was there, so I wouldn't have an estimated value. That, you know, I took a personal day from work to ensure that I had an accurate inspection of my house.
Yeah, but that estimate, that's if we don't get inside at the final end of the project in January. You know, the first step is we set up an appointment with you. If that's not convenient, you could call to set up a specific time. So I definitely wouldn't take off for that first visit. You know, if you have that callback appointment, you know, on your door,
You can take off my house too.
you know, you can call our office and say, you know, I would rather an inspection between 9 and 10 in the morning. You know, you can set up your own appointment that way.
All right, and then lastly, is there the ability for us to have a meeting before you send out those letters at the end? Do you normally have like a wrap-up meeting?
We're willing to meet anytime, at any point in the.
No, I mean like step 6.
Right.
Before you hit step 6, do you
Right.
come back to the town and say, okay, we're at this point, letters are going out, so
Sure.
you're not surprised, be prepared, we're at step 6.
Sure, yeah. Our office is 5 minutes away, so.
The townspeople will come out with the pitchforks and the torches, and we can have a
Oh, you know what,
bonfire.
communication is good.
At that point, I'm not comfortable with my back to.
That's what he's saying.
Absolutely.
That's all.
John, you had one more?
Yeah, can you go over in detail
of how you're actually going to come up with a value, in generalities though, of someone's house, like if they have a finished basement, if they have just remodeled their kitchen, how does that play in with the permit that they took out when Tim went out there to do, or looked at the plans for their kitchen? How is that going to figure into your value versus Tim's value? Are they going to get hit twice for that? Can you explain that a little bit better, please?
No, our numbers are starting from scratch. So whatever added assessments you got in the past, or whatever adjustments were made in the past, we have a blank slate at this point. So we're essentially going to look at all of the most recent sales data, and we're going to, as Rob showed, I think in step 2, the analyzation step, where the first properties that we value are the properties that have sold. And so by doing that, we have a good understanding of what values are of homes in different parts of town. You might have the same house in 2 different areas of town that sell, $50,000 apart because of the location. Okay, so that analysis on the land portion is done with respect to that. As far as the information about updated kitchens and finished basements, the sales, they paint a pretty good picture of what the market in Hawthorne, how the market in Hawthorne reacts to people with updated kitchens versus finished basements and older kitchens, etc. Some areas it makes a big difference, other areas not so much. And so what I can speak to now, not having done this analyzation yet, is that by the end of the project, we will have thoroughly analyzed every sale that took place over the last year, 2 years, 3 years even, if need be. And we'll have an answer for the effect that an updated kitchen has on your assessment versus an average kitchen, or the effect that being on a busy road in town has versus being on a quiet road, or as Rob said, someone who's next to a commercial property versus someone who's not. Does it make a difference? Yeah. To what degree? To be determined.
But when just to go a little bit further, when you say sales data, you're talking about sales data on this particular house, or sales data in that area, or sales data in the entire town?
In the entire town. And it's like when you do an individual appraisal on a house, if anyone's ever had one, they inspect your house, then they go into the market, they find the most comparable properties, and then they draw comparisons via adjustments between the two, and that's how they arrive at an estimate. We're doing that for every property with the entire universe of sales. So some homes are if there's a particular home in town where there's the most unique house in Hawthorne, and if there's nothing else like it, that's going to be difficult to do. Can we do it? Yeah. A lot of homes in town are similar to one another, and they have sold at one point over the last year, 2 years. Those will be easier to do. And so when we have these one-on-one meetings, one of the things that we do is we take the neighborhood map, we show people the neighborhood that they've been part of. We show them all of the properties that have sold in that neighborhood, pictures and all of the objective information. We show them the information on their property record card to make sure everything's accounted correctly. And then I ask people, okay, which homes are most similar to yours? Okay, this one. They know no homes, they're in their own same neighborhood. And if I assess you at $400,000 and similar homes are selling for at or about $400,000, then people start to get the confidence that, okay, that's about what my house is worth.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, John?
Yeah.
I just had a couple questions. A number of people that I spoke to said, do you have weekend hours if they can't make nighttime or during the week?
Absolutely. Saturdays.
Yeah, Saturdays, that's what I
Yes,
figured,
yeah.
Saturdays. Okay, so that's important. And How close in past history have your assessments been to future sales? Say you're all done, you assess my house at 400,000, and in other areas when you've done the assessments, is it gonna sell for 400,000?
I'd say a typical year, very close. But the example that I gave you at the start of the presentation, in 2007, I was pretty far off the year or two after. And in 2001, 2002, I was pretty far under where the market went. What will the market bring in 2020, 2021, 2022?
But if that's the case, most of your houses would be overvalued at that point, not just one particular home? So in that case, our tax
well,
rate might
I-
need to
I
be
think
adjusted
it-
more than each house's value at that point?
I can probably safely say that the uniformity of assessments will be accurate in the immediate years following. How they compare to the market itself is
Anybody's guess.
anybody's guess. But, some towns, they don't want to wait 10 years. So we talked about the city of Patterson. First they waited 30 years. 2005, it was done by another firm, not my firm. And then 2015, I did the revaluation. And they waited 10 years, but they paid the same amount of money in 2015. They started to get frustrated because, they found that these numbers were getting stale relatively quickly. So after a year of realizing we can't keep doing this every 10 years or 15 years, they retained me to do a reassessment actually every year. And I've just finished my third straight year of doing a reassessment. So they've actually done a reval and 3 reassessments in the last 4 years.
Could you explain the difference between a revaluation and a reassessment?
Right, the revaluation, as Rob showed you, is very labor intensive. We got to go to every property. We got to measure every property. We're doing everything from scratch, as I mentioned. And it takes a long time to get the data set up in the system. Once the data is set up in the system, all of the formulas and models that we use to produce these assessments, the year after, it doesn't take too much of an effort to tweak the, based on the data that we had just collected, to tweak the models with, proportionate to where the market is going, whether it's going up or whether it's going down. So a reassessment is essentially done based on the data that was collected from the previous reval. So with Patterson, as you can imagine, it took us a long time to measure and inspect 25,000 properties. But once I did that, and once I created the neighborhoods and the models on a year by year at a much reduced price, I just do yearly updates and maintenance to the model.
Over the past 3 or 4 years, we've had a lot of commercial reevaluations that have come through tax appeals.
Worst thing that can happen to a town is a tax appeal.
Well, after settling almost all of those, we started with 200 or 300, now we're down to 6, 8, 10, something like that. Is that more helpful to keep the swing of the residential ups and downs, that we've addressed that already?
Could be, yeah. One of the things when a full reval is done in a town and everyone is brought equally, an example I use is if you have a street and on that street there's 10 houses and all 10 of those houses are exactly the same and all 10 of those houses are assessed for 400,000. And in a non-reval year, if one appeals and lowers it to 300,000, it's a windfall for that one house because they're getting an assessment, much lower assessment, but at the same rate. Okay. If the following year that street gets revalued and now all the other 9 houses get lowered to that 300,000, the rest of the town gets the windfall, but the one house that went down actually will go back up again to create the uniformity. So a tax appeal is always a windfall for a taxpayer in a non-reval year. But if shortly after your appeal you do a revaluation, you'll lose that benefit. So there will be people whose taxes will go up who appealed, say, a year, 2 years, or 3 years before.
Obviously, that's the biggest concern. Some will go down, some will stay the
Right.
same, and some will go up.
Yeah.
I guess it's almost impossible to say what are the swings gonna be in the up.
Impossible now, but as we said, when we have, if you call me back, you know, in 6 months from now, we'll be able to tell you that.
Okay.
Because it's all entirely based on, I can give you the assurance that as of October 1st, 2019, which by the way, that's the actual valuation date, October 1st, 2019, for the 2020 tax year. So my values are as of that, the as-is value as of that fixed date. I can assure you it's going to be done consistent with the market and uniform to, you know, throughout. What I can't tell you, though, is how that new value will compare to what's on the books right now. You know, 2 houses right next to each other might be exactly the same, okay? And I come in and I value them exactly the same. But if one of the houses' old assessment was $100,000 less than the other house, for whatever reason, there's going to be a huge disparity in the tax impact of those 2 houses. And that's what frustrates a lot of people. When they come to see us, they say, I don't understand, my neighbor has the exact same house as me. How come they went down $500 and I went up $500? And I quickly show them that I valued your home exactly the same as your neighbor. The reason why your neighbor went down and you went up is because of your old assessment, which I have no control over. That's what's on the books now. And there might be, you know, a lot of examples like that throughout town. Usually when you wait, when there's 30 years between revals, that things like that start to happen.
When you complete your project in November, and you're ready to send everything to the county, when does that happen? When does the process start with the county to come back to Hawthorne so that our residents, our taxpayers know that they're going to either be taxed in 2020 or possibly 2021? Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, the letters will go out, say, November 10th or shortly thereafter. The tax list itself is actually due mid-January. And then once the tax list is set and the final notifications go out, the postcards that you get every year, the appeal deadline is May 1st. And anyone who wants to appeal at that point probably will have county tax board hearing sometime in June or July, and then the new tax bill will hit the residences probably sometime late July.
So that will be the tax bill for 21?
20.
For
That's
2021.
It's retroactive back to January 1st. Your tax bills are printed every summer, and typically it's
First half left.
it's third and fourth, and then estimate first and second of the following year. It's very confusing, but that's pretty much the way that every tax.
Right, well, if it's the 3rd and 4th, it's not going to go back to January. It'll be the 3rd and 4th and the 1st and 2nd.
No. It'll be the third and fourth, but the difference, okay, so by the time the first and second quarter of 2020, people will still be paying taxes based on the assessment they have in place now.
Okay.
Okay? If there is a change in the amount of taxes that are due as a result of our new numbers,
Right.
whether it's more or whether it's less, that will be made up for in the third and fourth quarter of 2020. So if your taxes go up as a result of the reval, the difference between what you paid first and second quarter
Will be made up in the third and fourth.
If your taxes go down, you'll actually get a credit third and fourth. And then the first and second of 2021, everything will be
Real value.
back on real time.
Okay.
The one thing that Rob had mentioned to me, though, when we hold these informal meetings, we will have an idea based on our new aggregate across the board. We'll be able to predict what the tax rate would have been in 2019 with the new numbers. So, in other words, I tell the folks that we meet with, the revaluation will cause your assessment to go, or your taxes to go up by this number or down by this number, not including any budget increase that may take place, county, school.
So when is new tax rate struck, at what
Well,
time
the
of
new
year?
rates are usually struck in June, July? Before that? Okay. But when we send the letter,
So people will know based on your new value.
they'll know where their taxes will be, less whatever, I can't,
Yeah, forget the increases.
right, I always tell people, I say, look, you might want to add to this number, maybe 3%, 4%, whatever the history in Hawthorne has been of increases per year, 2%. But assuming that the budget is exactly level in 2020 as it was in 2019, your taxes will be this, okay? Their response is, well, the budget's going to go up. I said, okay, well, you can account for that by just taking my number and increasing it by 2%, 3%, whatever. And that'll get you pretty close. So the people don't have to wait until the summer of 2020 to figure out how this revaluation affects them. They'll be able to figure it out right after the value letters go out in November.
So if you go on our website, we'll have a tax impact calculator. So you just plug in your old assessment and your new assessment, and we'll do the math for you. We'll give you the result. This way you can at least have an idea whether you're going up, down, or pretty much staying the same.
How does it affect your county tax rate? Because obviously if our values are going to potentially go up, and they hit us with their standard percentage for their tax part, is it all factored in?
Well, right now, what was the ratio?
47%?
Right now, the county's already equalizing all your values up. They're taking your aggregate assessed value and they're dividing it by 0.47.
And that's what they're using to
They're
give us
using
our
that now
portion.
anyway. I
So
mean,
theoretically, theirs should not change.
It should remain level. I mean, it's hard for me to say at this point,
Give or
how true that ratio is, 47%. I mean, it might be accurate, it might be off by a couple percent. They're gonna take next year's numbers at face value, okay? Right now, they're in theory coming up with 100% market value just by dividing the total aggregate by 0.47.
Well, thank you. At this point, I'd like to invite anyone from the public who has questions while our presenters are still here. Try and keep it as short as possible since there's a lot of people. But why don't we start with the Cub Scout leader, so in case they want to leave.
You want to take your laptop off?
How you doing? Do I have to come up
Yeah,
to the
come up and give
podium?
your name and address.
Maybe it's easier for you to close it. You've got people coming up for the podium.
We're going to ask a question. Podium there, no fair.
And then just turn the
Just
projector.
give us your name and address.
So you guys don't
Paul
get.
Tevis, 352 Ray Avenue. Obviously, this is a rather large undertaking. Who's going to shoulder the burden of this expense? And can you give me a figure on what something like this costs the town? Or if indeed the town does pay for it, or?
We've already
paid for it.
engaged for it. We've been budgeting for this for 3 or 4 years
Okay,
now.
so we pay for them to come in?
Yes.
And how are you guys picked? It was a bid out?
It
for
was
this
bid
for
out
them?
and
Public bid.
Okay,
public bid.
all right, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Michael, can you turn those lights on? We can sit there.
You sit? Yeah. Okay.
We're Alfred, 38 Hillcrest Avenue. When you do the reevaluation, when you're doing a reevaluation on land and the home, is it considered one? Is it considered two different entities?
It's considered one. Obviously, you can't sell the land separate from the building or vice versa. But we do break it down, a land value, a building value, and a total value. You're taxed on the total value, but we will be able to show you of that total value, what we valued your land at and what we valued your building at.
And the value of the land, if you have an outdoor kitchen or a pool or whatever, that increases the value of your land or your home?
Possibly, yeah. As Rob pointed out, the first inspection, the site inspection, there are some features which would cause your land value to be higher or lower, depending on what the inspector sees on the property. I mean, if your backyard floods, by all means, let us know, show us, we'll see the evidence, and that will have a negative impact on the land value.
Get the garden hose out before they come.
Pools, outdoor kitchens, they really go to the value of the property versus the land itself. Your land has a value, and it's improvements. It's really more properly classified as land and improvement. So So the improvements. Now, you may have land value, you have 5 acres of land, but 4 of it is wetlands and unbuildable, undevelopable. That's taken into account under individual property. That's a distinct part of your property versus your neighbor's property, which might have 5 beautiful, fully developable acres. So those are some of the nuances that the process takes into account.
Are retaining walls considered property or things like that?
No, typically, no, we don't, that's just a feature of the land itself, and landscaping is typically not picked up. We put that more in a category of, personal taste and so on.
Thank you.
Tina Dutzar, 202 Van Winkle Avenue. I have 3 questions. They're quick questions, though. One, what is considered a finished basement? Like, what makes it finished? That's my first question.
We're really looking at 3 components: walls, floors, and ceilings.
Okay, so if it's like an exposed ceiling, that wouldn't be considered. I mean, it's not finished. At least to me, it's not finished. There is heat down there, but it's like the ceiling's open. Like there's exposed beams. So I don't know. Second, this may seem stupid, but what's a fixed staircase? Is that like if I have one that pulls down, that's not fixed?
That's not what we're talking about. You have to have,
Okay.
yeah, that's a pull-down attic, and we're not going up in those attics.
Okay, and third question. Let's say I don't agree with your value. Do you send somebody different out, or is it the same person comes out? You know what I'm saying?
Well, during this informal meeting, the first thing that we do is we go over all of the objective information on the property record card. You either have 2 bathrooms or you have 3 bathrooms. You either have a finished basement or you don't.
Okay.
If there's a dispute over the objective information, then yes, we will send someone back out to look at it again.
A different person?
A different person.
Okay.
Okay, it's always a different person.
Okay.
If you have a dispute, if all the information is correct, but you disagree with the value, now we're getting into the subjective.
Right.
We don't necessarily have to go back out to your property because there's no dispute there.
Right.
But then we can have a discussion about, why your home should be valued less or.
And just to clarify, I'm not sure if this was your question, but the inspector that's coming to your property, they're just there to collect the data. They're not the person that's placing the value on your property.
Oh, that's somebody.
There's appraisers back at the office that collect all the data, and the appraisers, they're 2 different, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Sorry to
You done,
interrupt.
See you at another meeting.
All right. Yeah, I'll be seeing you guys soon.
Did they earn their badges? How many badges tonight?
6.
All
I
right.
think Dairy Queen's in order.
Yeah.
We pushed them off.
Hi, Patty Pasquino, 51 McFarland. Just had a question about if the homeowner is currently renovating when y'all are coming around, and permits are on file, things of that nature. Is that more of what you see?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, obviously, over the course of this year, there's going to be a lot of projects that are midway.
Right.
The permits are filed. The assessor has notice of that. He gives us that information. We'll make a note. Let's say we inspect the property in March and it's 50% completed. We'll come back when it's done.
Okay. And then the other question was just, well, really kind of a statement or wondering about, some people who might have been undervalued or underwater, so to speak, in the past. It sounds like this might then help them as far as if they want to refinance for a loan, like improving the value of their home is going to then reflect on if they're going.
You might qualify for a loan if your house is
Like a
3 and it's
positive
now
aspect to
4.
it.
Now you can qualify for a
Right.
percentage of that.
I mean, have you?
Well, my job is to put a fair market
Right.
value on it. If you're underwater right now, I might not have control over that and might not
Right.
change that. But if it might certainly raise a flag with the homeowner, like, okay, if the value of my home is this, and maybe I should go back to the bank and.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking.
Sure. Yeah.
Nowadays, it seems like closer to transit-oriented areas
Mhm.
seems to be the value's up, whereas in the past, it might have been, a negative. You don't take the train at night and this and that.
I mean, we'll have a lot of useful information, okay,
Right.
so that you can grab, and I encourage everybody to either come down to these informal meetings or go on our website and look at all the information. Because I think it'll open some eyes up. People who aren't necessarily in the industry, they'll see, not only what their house is worth, but what other homes in town are worth and
Right.
what goes into value now.
Thank you.
Sir?
Good evening. Norris Said, 58 First Avenue. I guess my first question is, I recently had my house assessed as part of refinancing.
Mhm.
So I guess how far off do I expect, your assessment to be?
Should be close.
Should be close?
Right.
Okay. And I guess my next question is to the council and I guess to the mayor. I guess throughout this process, it's going to be a two-part question. Do you guys have some sort of plan in place to compare the assessments throughout the way, maybe an independent assessment just to make sure that they're matching? And then the second question is, what would happen if you start having numerous citizens complaining that the assessments are off from what they expect? Let's say all of a sudden, more than 50% are saying, hey, we don't feel that that's fair.
Well, our tax assessor works for the borough, so
Okay.
obviously he's going to be scrutinizing whatever our consultant is setting forth. He's generally got a pretty good pulse based on that, and with local realty, what's been selling. So he'll have an idea of whether they're on target, way off. So your concern will be met by a borough representative.
Awesome.
Just a other question, if you still don't agree, there is you can appeal.
You still appeal.
It's the county tax board that has oversight on, and final decision if you disagree with the value they place and as.
And that was a May 1st deadline that was mentioned?
May 1st,
May
correct.
1st. So once everything comes out, by May 1st, you'll be able to make that appeal if you're still not happy.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry. Your name again, please?
Norris Said, 58 First Avenue.
Great, thanks so much.
Ma'am?
Alexandra Sotiriou, 36 Sunrise Drive. If a person has a senior freeze and their evaluation goes up considerably, does the senior freeze still hold, or is there any change anticipated in that?
Whenever I answer this question, I always preface it by saying you should definitely call the state that's on the application and just verify anything I'm about to say first. But my answer is yes, as long as you're qualified prior to, your senior freeze application is current prior to, then it does hold.
Okay.
I would make sure, because sometimes Trenton changes laws, and I'm not. This is a function of Trenton, the senior freeze program.
It's a yearly application.
Right, and but the qualifications and conditions of that is a function of
Yes.
Trenton, and sometimes they make some changes that don't get back to me. So I would answer that by saying that yes, it should hold. The freeze should hold, regardless of the new number that we come up with.
That's my question.
But I would, don't take my word for it. I would double check that with the
Anything from
state.
legal?
Yeah, no, we totally agree with that position. You have to check with the state on that, because we don't have jurisdiction over the freeze, they do. So your assessment is going to be your assessment, but whether the freeze holds is out of our.
And then what department at state is the?
The number is 201-791.
He'll give her your card, please.
Oh, okay, so I'll get that from you. And then, I think I heard this from the last individual, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. If your home was purchased not in that 30-year time period, but much sooner, more recently, will an evaluation have been made at the time of sale?
No,
Oh.
no,
I
no.
want some good news.
How'd you get an appraisal?
Well, no, she's talking about the assessment, though.
Yeah.
If,
We
didn't
if
change it.
your assessment is not judged on the basis of a sale, that's actually called spot assessing, and assessor can't do that. It's illegal. The only time an assessor can change your assessment in a non-reval year is if it's new construction, or if an addition has been put on. But solely based on a sale price, No, you can't change the assessment based on, but you'll have a decent idea of what the house is worth. And I can assure you that if the sale is a fair sale, an arm's length transaction sale, our number is going to be very close to that number. Or, as the other gentleman brought up, if you have recent appraisals that are done, we should be very close to those as well.
Okay, thank you.
Refinance appraisals and such.
Good evening. Jane Goldecki, 384 Diamond Ridge Avenue in Hawthorne. When the inspector comes, or the assessor comes, he has measurements of the lot, the property, correct?
That we have, yes.
Now, would he have, if there was any changes in the size of the property, for instance, where I live, they made the bridge wider, and they took some of my property from the side and the front. Would they be aware of that, or do I have to find the dimensions somehow?
We should be aware of that. That should be something we should have at the assessor's office. To be sure, if you have anyone who has a survey, a recent survey, we welcome any and all information like that, just to be sure we have the right dimensions. That is a great example of something that you would look at when you come to one of our one-on-one meetings. Make sure that the lot size that we have and the dimensions of the lot are accurate. We use the information contained on the tax map, the official tax map, which are being redone right now down in the engineer is working with the Division of Taxation. So hopefully, all that information has been updated.
Yeah, the good news is in preparation for this, town has all the tax maps being redone. So that information will be on.
So will they?
So
That's part of what Steve's been working on.
That's why we're upgrading the tax map.
did somebody come out and measure, let's say?
No, what happens is we do research, and there's a deed filed for this lady. When they did the taking, they had a meets and bounds that was filed for the taking on her property, which changed the size of her property. That's been incorporated in the new map.
Oh, then I don't have to do anything.
It'll be fine.
But double check.
I mean, you can check, if something happened last week, we might not have it.
No.
But with yours happened long enough ago that it's on.
It happened, yeah, many years ago, but I'm not sure exactly what year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you wait, they're not going to let you go.
Matt Brandt, 448 Lafayette. I've only lived here 19 years. I don't know, how many properties do we have in Hawthorne, approximately?
About 6,000.
And then what's been the
Class twos.
turnover rate for the sales data that you're gonna have for like the past 3, 4, 5 years? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Not at this point. We will, but not at this point.
Okay. So you alluded to some of the economic downtrends and uptrends. 2019 could be an interesting year from a Fed perspective. Do you take that into account in your assessment?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and when is that decision, those assessments are made in October, you said, in terms of?
Well, the valuation date is October 1, so we'll be using sales up to October 1.
And then when you look at interest rates up to October 1?
Yes, third quarter interest rates and all. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
And then the final piece, have you guys let them know of any temporary flooding? So when Lafayette River meets on Lake of Hawthorne, Methodist Church, has that been told them, or do I need to make sure?
We will convey that, and you're also on a busy street, so you got 2 strikes for you.
Yeah. And I'm commercial, and across from you guys, so it can't be open.
Oh, wait, you get the parade, though.
I do get the parade, that is true. I do get a front seat for the parade, that's great.
We charge you extra for that.
And the tree lighting, and the tree lighting.
Yeah, no, I hate all that, so that's right. Lower my assessment. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Ma'am?
Yeah, I do have another.
Hi, Lynette Owens, 90 Sherman Avenue. I just have a quick question. You were saying you're looking at the bathroom and the kitchen. Okay, bathroom's in good condition, and we just redid the floors for the kitchen, but we haven't got to money yet to do the cabinets.
Wait.
So you come to do an assessment.
Wait. Wait.
So what happens if, well, that would bring the value of my house down if the kitchen wasn't
up to standard.
Right.
Well,
Now you got it.
Catch it up.
Write that address down again. Just to clarify.
I might not open my doors.
Just to clarify, and Rob, had mentioned this during the PowerPoint. There are certain items that we call deferred maintenance. Typical maintenance of a house that have to be done. You need to replace your roof every 20 years. You need to replace your boilers, your furnaces. You need to, paint your house, the siding, and so on. And that, the assessor typically doesn't give added assessments for that sort of work because it goes with the territory of home ownership. What we're primarily looking for is the person who does like a gut job in the bathroom and really put something in that's not typical for, say, the age of the house. So if our inspectors go into a house that's built in the 50s, they have a pretty good idea of what is, I don't want to say an average kitchen or an average bathroom. It's more like a typical kitchen or a typical bathroom. What would be expected in a house? Sometimes you walk into a house that was built in the 50s and you get wowed by the kitchen, okay? And they completely gutted it out. Our inspectors are very good at identifying on the property record card, like, look, this is not a typical kitchen for this style and age of this house. This is something that's just been done within the last 5 to 10 years, and it's really a selling point, And if you ever look at a multiple listing sheet, if you're buying a house, those are and the first line is, brand new kitchen with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances put in. That's what's selling the house. Okay, we're looking for those kind of an items. But people who, you have to replace fixtures, every so often. You even have to, replace occasional cabinets or cabinet handles and that sort of stuff I wouldn't be concerned with.
Okay, I wasn't sure like if that would, bring the value down so much and then with, say, in 2 years I want to sell, would I have to get it reassessed again?
No, usually when your permit gets taken out to improve your, let's just say you didn't do anything and you waited till after he was all done. When you go to redo your kitchen, you're gonna apply for a permit and then the assessor's gonna come out and say, you know what? You're gonna get hit with an increase because you put in that. So you're either gonna pay me now or pay me later, once you do the improvement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Chris Patrick, 159 Washington Avenue.
Thank you.
You had mentioned things about walking around the outside of the house. I know after Sandy, a lot of us did generators and things like that. Do those count as well as central air conditioning units and things like that?
We notate generators on the card, but as of right now, we don't value generators now.
Okay. The next question is things that set other houses apart. Like, okay, a kitchen could be a kitchen or a kitchen, but then there's other things such as lighting, electronics, things like that. Are those figured into the assessment?
Typically not, no.
No. Okay, so fits and finishes. If I have 50-inch TVs in every room in my house, including the bathroom.
No.
But we're coming over to the Super Bowl.
No personal property. We have no interest in any personal property in the house.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I just have a question. How do you rate what DCA has done as far as the permit process is concerned regarding you don't need a permit for a roof anymore, you don't need a permit for siding, you don't need a permit to put so many electrical outlets in, you don't need a permit to do some plumbing work. How do you look at that with regard to the homeowner did not take a permit out, but the work was done properly and it wasn't required to have a permit?
Well, that's going to be a problem going forward for the assessor. As far as we're concerned, it's done on a visual, and we're doing it from scratch. So if we see a kitchen, and that kitchen is a modern kitchen, whether you took a permit out last year or whether you took it out 5 years ago, it's still going to be marked down as an upgraded kitchen. Now, down the road, it could be a problem for the assessor because the assessor now, with this new rule that you're talking about, isn't going to have that paper trail of people doing kitchens and bathrooms.
Right.
So this is actually the time to pick all that stuff up.
Okay. All right.
Linda Vissinelli, 3 Lake Buffalo Road. You didn't talk at all about commercial properties. What's different with those?
So commercial properties, and it was a slide though, wasn't it?
It was at the end, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't
We
talk
might have
about it. It
skipped
was
over
up there,
that.
but we didn't talk
Okay.
about it.
Commercial properties are done by the same standard of value. Fair market value as of October 1, 2019. No different than a residential. Now, the difference between how we value the residential versus the commercial is a lot different in that residentials typically sell and are valued based on comparable home sales. Commercials are valued typically not only on comparable properties, but more emphasis is put on what's called an income capitalization approach. So what we do is we will send out a request to all the commercial property owners for the income and expenses relative to not the business, but the real estate. Okay? So if you have an apartment building, I want to know what your rents are, and I want to know what your expenses are relative to those rents. From that information, I'll be able to figure out what the net income to the real estate is. And then we're going to use market capitalization rates consistent with third quarter 2019, and we're going to capitalize that into value. Because quite frankly, the buyer of that building is going to be more interested in the income stream than they will in comparable sales.
Right.
And so it's still the same standard in that it will be 100% market value as of October 1. It's just going to be a little bit different how we get to that point.
But the commercial property owners are going to have to do
They're going to have to respond to the,
paperwork.
yes, they're going to have to respond to the income and expense documents that we send. We'll probably send those. I like to send those right after tax day because that's when most people have all the information at hand, accountants and
And
whatnot.
you're still doing the physical inspection?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The
So
physical
that's the same
inspection.
process,
Right.
the
right.
visitation.
Additional process.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I can piggyback on Linda. What if the commercial property owner doesn't provide you the example of the apartment building?
Right.
If the owner of that apartment building decides, I'm not going to give you that information, do you then guesstimate?
We do, and if you remember when Rob
goes to
talked
the
about
highest.
the yellow card with the updated kitchen and the
Right.
updated bathroom and the finished basement,
You
that will
assume all
hold
that
till such
first part.
time as we go back and see it.
Okay.
Same holds true. I'll guesstimate the income stream. I'll let them know the income stream. I'll say, look, if I'm wrong, give me the paperwork. Now, again, Rob mentioned case law. You forfeit your right to appeal if you don't provide that information.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. I'm sure, people will have questions, and if we get them from the public, we'll filter it to you, and appreciate you coming tonight and giving us the process.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If anyone wants to leave, now's your perfect opportunity. If not, stay around and watch the rest of the meeting.
No,
have to
you can't
stay.
go.
Oh, yeah, you can go.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Kind of felt like it, didn't it?
Gonna take a couple minutes break.
I'll just remind everybody before you leave, if you want to.
Not my call.
Review the PowerPoint again, we have it both on our website and on Appraisal Systems website. So you can go there and see the information.
It's also on Tap into Tap into Hawthorne.
There is. And I asked him if that's what he said. I asked
Yeah, I forgot to do that.
his character. I said before everybody leaves, will you tell me if we have a report? Oh, I see. You know.
I'm going to leave that and donate it to the town.
That wasn't part of the bid? I thought that was involved.
Yeah, they'll leave it.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our business, old business. John, we'll start your way.
Okay, thank you. Erica, is there any update on the Goffel Road 208 repaving that we asked you to look into?
No, I don't have any update yet.
Okay, the other question is, a while ago I had brought up about the generators at DPW yard as far as being covered. Now that we have the new building, would they be put inside?
We're in the process of moving everything inside that we can move inside and figuring out where it's gonna go. We're doing that in between doing other things. In the next couple of weeks, we should have it pretty well sorted out.
Okay, and just to piggyback on that one, as far as the testing of the generators, they are being tested like we had discussed a while ago, every 2 weeks?
I will confirm it, but they are supposed to be tested.
All right,
So-
I know. Can you just confirm that, please?
Okay.
And also, I noticed that there's a lot of double wood in town with the telephone poles. Is Verizon working on those, or public service that you know of?
Probably not, we can follow up.
I think they are, John, because on Lincoln Ave, they had cut a bunch of them down. If you noticed, there was a bunch of cones along Lincoln Ave with pieces left. They didn't come pick them up, but they started to cut them down.
Although Verizon was in town today on Warburton, I think.
That's my point.
I think they're starting with leaving.
And then, Eric, if you could just maybe find out from the building department for the developers agreement on the apartments on, I guess it's Fifth Ave and Forest Ave, if everything is satisfactory with the building department.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think a lot of it's gonna be on the
Central
bond and the
Ave.
engineer too.
Yeah, we haven't released the bond, so obviously that, when that happens, that'll come here.
Okay, thank you.
No, okay, okay. Bruce?
No.
John?
No old business.
Joe?
I got a lot. I'll make up for you guys. 67 Outlook, property maintenance. Went by it again. There's still garbage on both sides of the property.
We've issued notices, I believe we've issued summonses now, but as you know, that doesn't necessarily result in immediate cleanup.
Is there an opportunity where we go out there and clean it up and then bill the homeowner?
No, you can't really do
Not
that.
before the court date, I would think, right?
No.
You have cut lawns and things, but after
But after the
months.
judge has.
Yeah, the judge would rule that.
The tent behind the old Golden Steer?
Stop work order's been issued on that, and he's been ordered to come back to the planning.
And he's been fined.
It does not comply with the approved plan.
Old
Construction-
thank you. No, go ahead.
Construction code official issued the stop work order and told me that.
Transmission property?
They're being issued summonses on a daily basis. I understand he didn't show up in court, but my attorney tells me there's nothing we can really do to force him out other than.
Oh, but if he failed to appear for court, there'll be a warrant for his arrest, and he'll be brought in here involuntarily. He's going to get summonses every day of the week.
Because I counted the vehicles, and there's more vehicles than there were last week.
Right.
So
Well,
now he's littering on Victor's property.
No, he's thumbing his nose at the court, the town, and again, we will do everything we can to, he will come in here one way or another, and if he wants to come in shackled, he'll do that.
So do we go and find them?
I'm sorry?
Do we go and find him and bring him in?
Well, the police will arrest him if
That's
the
what I mean.
court issues a warrant for his
We have
arrest.
to wait for that process.
Correct,
Okay.
then he will be arrested.
Fine.
All right, last on the old Cedar Avenue, the repavement project, how are we on that? I know you said that they are still the punch list, that we're going to continue.
He's now completed 50% of the punch list, I'm sorry, 90% of the punch list, but the 10% is Cedar Avenue. So it should all be done, it's just weather dependent now. We're supposed to get snow. He's supposed to be back in town within the next week or two to finish it all. It's weather dependent, but it is not done yet. We haven't paid him yet, we haven't accepted it yet, to put it out.
All right, that's all for old.
Eric, I just had one old business. The county had cut down some trees on Lincoln Ave near Company Firehouse Number 4 well over a year ago. Could you ask them when they're planning on coming out and grinding the stumps? It's become an eyesore, worse than when they just randomly cut down trees that didn't even look sick.
Will do.
Joe, new business.
All right, new business. I sent the council president, the mayor, and administrator, and Dr. Boswell pictures of the Mary Street improvements, I'll call them, painting and
The work
improvements.
zone.
The work zone. I did have a short discussion with the mayor. I'd like to know where we are on the
Sure.
soil.
What happened is that the carting company came and took away the dumpster and did not bring an empty dumpster. So as a result, they just laid the stuff on the ground. So the dumpster has now been brought, all of it's been cleaned up. In the process of dumping it on the ground, there was some of the epoxy system, which is used to coat the inside of the tank, which had leaked. That particular area where it leaked, fortunately for the contractor, happens to be on asphalt. It's soil, but underneath is asphalt. So all of that material has been removed in accordance with manufacturer specification and taken off site. You had asked the question about testing the soil. Well, as we know, all the soil is contaminated anyway, and it's all going to be removed as part of the lead remediation, which is something we're going to start. It just so happens where that went, it's been cleaned up and there's no residual left. But soil is going to be removed anyway at that point.
The third picture I sent you is a picture of the purple
Yep.
flow going down the mountain, which
he's-
would be
Well,
south.
I didn't personally inspect it, Joe.
No, I did send you the picture, though.
I saw your picture, and Alex Bouchon went out there with him, cleaned it up, and assured me that everywhere there was purple liquid, it was on asphalt. Even if it wasn't, the soil's going to be taken out anyway. But
Not down the mountain, that's not
Not all the
good.
way down, but down the mountain, it was all cleaned up. If you want, we'll do another soil sample.
I would like a soil sample
Keep
at
in mind
the,
the material, just so you know. We're using to coat the inside of the potable water drinking tank.
It's not dangerous.
Okay, so, I mean,
If it's on our system.
I can't say it's non-hazardous, because if you drank a gallon of it, you'd get really sick. But we are using this stuff to coat the inside of the water tank, and that's what the material was.
I get it. My concern is how they're stripping, and there were cans of stripper in picture number 2. Those liquids, and the cans, you could see them all piled up, and we had horrible heavy rains. Everything flowed south of that water tank.
Well, downhill, I'm not sure it's south, but the
No, you're
liquid-
right, it's east.
Right, the liquid that you saw was not the stripper, because that's clear, that's colorless. What you saw was the epoxy system. Could some of the stripper been there too? Perhaps. But that would not migrate the way the epoxy did, because it would percolate down if there was no asphalt. And we are going to take all the soil out. I'm very comfortable that it's all going to be cleaned up. And it was
Who's cleaning up the soil now? Who's paying for it?
The borough already paid for it.
Right, no, my point is now I don't think we should have to pay the whole boat. Hell, half of the contamination is his.
I think we could have that discussion, but I think that's kind of unrealistic. I mean, we know that the soil around the tank, all of it was contaminated with lead.
I hear you. I got pictures that say he contaminated the soil too.
In what world does a contractor think that that was acceptable way to store waste?
He did.
So did you stress to him that this is not the way we do work and business in Hawthorne?
I'm saying this calmly, this wasn't said to him calmly. I mean, obviously, he was told that this is unacceptable and all the other things that go along with it. But then you have to look at the reality. If you gotta clean it up, he did clean it up. It's all done now. It's out of there. And it was unfortunate, he shouldn't have done it. And you know, we told him, look, if the guy doesn't bring a dumpster, then you get on the phone, you get a dumpster here right away. And he had it there in 2 days. I mean, I think, Joe, you saw it on a Monday and it was out there. It was out
Saturday.
Saturday, it was out by Monday then, or Thursday, whatever. There was one day, I think that's what happened. It came on Thursday, didn't bring the dumpster. You saw it Saturday and Monday was gone.
All right. The new trench that was dug recently during the Diamond Bridge upgrades was done by us. You see if you could take a chance to go by there, you'll see that the trench from the rain and snow is popping up. Is that our responsibility?
Who did it?
It would have been the contractor that did the improvements on Diamond Bridge,
Well, then we'll get-
streetscape.
And he's been less than 2 years since he completed, so we'll get him back. Although that's, you know, we didn't do that job. That was done by the other firm. But we'll still get it fixed. Where is it, Joe?
Yeah, which trench is it, Joe?
It's actually from the park, and it goes towards Hawthorne's Best Pizza.
We'll take a look at it. And you're saying it's rising, not sinking?
No. You can see where it's like almost a pothole now. A long pothole.
Right. I've never heard of one rising.
I mean, the asphalt's popping up.
Frost heave.
It's that epoxy.
Steve, what did they put
If
the
it's
cable?
rising, we'd have a real problem.
Put the
In
cable on the
Earthwood
ground,
area,
Steve?
Volcano.
lastly, on new business, I had requested a zoning timeline of a property on Cedar Avenue. I've still yet to receive it.
I checked with Gene DeAugustine yesterday. He's working on it with Janice. They're pulling out the files.
So the gentleman applied to have some items done to a property on Cedar Avenue that has been vacant for some number of years, and he feels that he is being stymied, we'll say, in the timeline process. So I've asked to see a proof of it. Now, I kind of feel a little...
How long's it been?
It's got to be 2 weeks ago I asked for it.
He's got 20 working days.
Well, if I could interject, from what the zoning and building is relayed to me, is he's brought in several different plans. So his initial plan was one thing, and they said whatever their comment was on those. So then he brought in another set, and that was going to require to go to the zoning board. So there's been just a little bit back and forth.
I'm just asking for the day the guy submitted it, and every day he submitted something new, so at least I can either defend the actions,
right,
or
so
not.
I'll see if I can get it tomorrow.
By state law, you have 20 days to review an application, and if they tweak it and change it, you have 20 days from every tweak and change.
20 days
That's all I'm
continue.
looking for. I'm looking for what you're saying.
Yep, that's the answer. And that's not a Hawthorne thing, that's
That's a state-
a DCA
state law.
law.
I
Now,
hear
granted,
you.
we should get 2 people as quick as possible.
Yeah, we generally beat
Yeah,
the
but
20
that's
days.
the
minimum,
maximums,
so-
but, yeah.
And Jean's last comment was the final pieces that they needed to bring were hopefully going to be this week so they could get on the zoning board. They're going for variances. Would be this month's zoning meeting, which is the fourth Monday of the month.
I did see him on Friday, and he told me that I would have it early this week. I was hoping to have had it already.
Yes, and he did tell me he spoke with you, so I said, okay, I'll check in tomorrow and get that to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not in work tomorrow.
Okay.
Friday.
Can I still email it to your Hawthorne
Absolutely.
email? You got it.
Well, Mike, what do we have? We have a 10-day prior to meeting submission date.
Well, the state law again provides all plans that you're going to rely upon at the time of the hearing have to be on file within 10 days
That's
of the
I'm
hearing.
backing into the
So
date, and it's 10 working days.
it is 10 days, period.
Oh, 10 days.
And so that deadline would be what?
18th,
The 18th? Okay.
Yeah, Friday.
this Friday.
I'll get it squared away tomorrow.
So you gotta have an answer by Friday or not.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
John?
No new business.
Bruce? Dominic?
Nope.
John?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I have nothing, so I'll turn to the administrative agenda presented by Mayor Goldberg.
Thank you, Council President. Last Friday evening, I had the pleasure of attending the annual Firemen's Installation during Macaluso's. I congratulate all of the officers, and my thanks always to our volunteer firemen and women for the job that they do. Please make sure to look at our new website, www.hawthornenj.org. The redesigned site is user-friendly and has a lot of important information. In addition, please sign up for Nixle messages and alerts. Burbio has added Hawthorne to their site, which will enable you to customize a calendar with events of your choosing. If you're part of a group that wants to list your events, contact them directly at www.burbio.com. They are asking for service organizations and other groups for their events so they can add them to the calendar as well. So I'm going to talk to the Rotary about adding their events, Lions Club. But if you belong to an organization that wants to say we're having a fundraiser on such and such a date, contact Burbio. They will put it on your calendar. Joe, you don't have an outstanding warrant or anything, do you? Just a reminder that the 2019 parking permits are on sale in the police records office daily from 9 to 4, and Monday is late nights until 8 p.m., excluding holidays. And of course, borough offices are closed this Monday, January 21st, in observance of Martin Luther King Day. I reported out to you last month that Linda Missinelli, who had spent 25 years on the library board, was leaving the board to to pursue other endeavors. I guess that's the kindest way to put it, Linda. The library board and the borough wanted to recognize the fact of Linda's service to the library and the community, so we've asked her to come tonight so we can present her with a proclamation. This is a mayor and council proclamation of Borough of Hawthorne. Whereas Linda Missinelli is a lifelong resident of the Borough of Hawthorne, and she and her family are an integral part of the Borough of Hawthorne. Whereas Linda Missinelli and her family have owned the Hawthorne Press since 1965, which continues to be the preeminent local newspaper of the Borough of Hawthorne. And whereas on February of 1994, Linda Missinelli began her service as a member of the Louis Bay II Library Board of Trustees of the Borough of Hawthorne. And whereas as a member of the board, she held various positions within the same as president and vice president. And whereas Linda Missinelli, as such member, provided to the board her expertise, detailed record-keeping and organizational skills, in addition to her visions for the Louis Bay II Library. And whereas as part of her visions for the Louis Bay II Library, Linda Missinelli was prominent of bringing large print books to the circulation of the library. That was accomplished under her tutelage. Whereas after 25 years as a member of the Louis Bay II Library Board of Trustees, Linda has decided to leave the board, but not for her service to the community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor and council of the proud borough of Hawthorne hereby thank Linda Missinelli for her 25 years of dedicated service and commitment to the Louis Bay II Library Board of Trustees, and wish her success and happiness. Linda, on behalf of the borough, the council, we want to give this as our appreciation. I have a State of New Jersey Senate and General Assembly citation. Commendations and praise are extended to Linda Missinelli and the citizenry of the 38th Municipal Legislative District through their elected representatives on outstanding 25 years of service on the Hawthorne Library Board of Trustees. Your hard work and dedication during your tenure is greatly appreciated. Thank you for all you do to improve our community. It's signed by Senator Logano and Assemblyman Swain and Assemblyman Tully. So that's for you as well.
Great job.
I think we're good. I'm thinking this may get into the paper.
Page.
One person.
Yeah, right.
All I want to say is I want to thank this mayor and council for all the support that you give to the library. And over 25 years, it hasn't always been that way in Hawthorne, and I'm very glad that we're working together and we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, as long as we're here, I have an appointment of the mayor of a Class 2 police officer. By the power and authority vested in me as mayor of the borough of Hawthorne, I hereby appoint Andrew Skay as a Class 2 police officer in the borough of Hawthorne.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Bertolo, second by Bennett. Roll call.
Bennett?
Yes.
Bertolo?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Mealy?
Yes.
Watecki?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Andrew, come on up.
Take a picture, Sam. You want the contract? Right. Where's Judy?
Joe didn't bring his
Who
camera?
gets to hold the Bible?
I'm gonna sell it for $1. Make sure you get the credits.
They don't pay
She
very
doesn't
well.
give credit.
If Andrew looks familiar, it's because he already is a Class 2 officer. It's a yearly appointment, and it's my honor to reappoint Andrew. So Andrew, if you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Andrew R. Skay,
I, Andrew R. Skay,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey.
of the State of New Jersey,
And I'll bear true faith and allegiance
and I'll bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and will perform the duties of
and will perform the duties of
Special Police Officer Class 2
Special Police Officer Class 2
of the Police Department
of the Police
of
Department
the Borough of Hawthorne,
of the Borough of Hawthorne,
faithfully, impartially, and justly, to the best of my ability. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Welcome back.
Over here. Andrew, it's over here.
Switch things up.
There.
We're checking your detective skills. Keeps one. One for you. Thank you. At this time, I call upon my borough attorney, Michael Pasquale, for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. On January 8th, I appeared in the Superior Court before Judge Brogan for a case management conference on our affordable housing matter. It went extremely well. There was participation by Fair Share Housing Center, 204 Wagwell Road. Kohler also participated, as of course did the borough. John Sabo was there from Joe Burgess's office, and Christine Cafone, our special master, appeared by phone. It was a very positive meeting, and we are really making substantial progress on resolving all of our affordable housing issues. We are not making much progress with the owner of 204 Wagwell Road, who continues to insist upon a project that is contrary to everything that we wish to see for that property. But we are, in the larger picture, working with the other 7,000 property owners in town to try to bring about a just result, and we'll keep doing that. Our zoning ordinance amendments, all of the final comments are into John Sabo's hands. I would expect within the next couple of days we'll get the final draft of the report, and we'll start circulating it to everybody for review. One of the things that Council President talked about tonight is tax appeals. And the tax appeals that we have been dealing with over the last several years were enormous at one point in time. I sent you all a memo, but I want to just highlight something, and that is this. In 2016, we had, at the end of 2015, we had 158 pending state tax court appeals with $293 million of property values under appeal, a huge number. At the end of 2018, we now have 18 cases in total covering 2016, 17, and 18 on appeal, covering only $6.2 million in property values. So we have settled an enormous number, 97% of all of the pending tax appeals that were on the books in 2015 are now settled, which is a testament to everything that you've done up here. It does help us on the revaluation, hypothetically. We're not sure to the extent, because we've already taken some of the starch out of the appeals that are pending. We had property owners who were substantially overvalued. We've reduced those, and we've absorbed that into our tax base over time, so it should hopefully make the appeal process better for our residents who have not gone through an appeal process. So let's hope that our hard work will pay off. I think it will. The only other thing I'll report on is that the Band Shell Committee is meeting next week, our kickoff meeting. We are going to set our agenda for the coming year. We're going to set our schedule. Those of you who have donated in the past, please donate again. Those of you who are new to the program and have not donated, it's a great opportunity to get your name in print, on our banner, on our website, on our Facebook. We really want to always thank council meetings. I thank everybody. I make sure that everybody who gives gets recognized. So give generously when you get solicited by Mrs. Mealy.
Letters are going out soon.
How do you like that? So again, thank you all for your support at the council level. Has been tremendous, and I look forward to a great
2019 season. We're going to have some surprises for you this year. So that's all I can say. Thank you, Michael. I now call upon Dr. Stephen T. Boswell for his report.
Thanks, Mayor. Following up with the band shell, Montone, we're still waiting for, he's shut down for 3 weeks in January. He'll be back as soon as that's over to put in the ADA viewing pad and walkway. Tonight you're going to award, we recommend you award, and Eric recommend, the administration recommends you award the tiling of the tennis courts. You'll notice that we're not going to award the alternate. The alternate is the paving to get it out there, and we believe we'll get a better price if we go to a paver to do the paving rather than a guy who puts down tiles on the tennis court. So we're going to ask Montone for a price to do that. We'll also let Superior Tile do if they want to give us a price too, but I don't think it'll be as good as if we go directly. Gobble Hill LSRP services, the water tank, plans and specs are being done to address that soil remediation. The water asset management plan, you know, at the last meeting, we finished phase 1, you've authorized phases 2 and 3, and that work has begun. Tonight, you'll also approve the proposal to address the collecting of the remaining water service connections under the GIS, GPS requirements of the DEP. I already talked about the punch list items. We went from 50 to 90%, but didn't get to Cedar yet, but that's on the list. The Mary Street water tank, there was a piece that was cut out, reinstalled, welded, primed, painted. A lot of stuff has gone on. There's a voucher tonight for some of the Brave Industry work, and we approve paying them for the work they've done. The library roof, if you remember, there was a leak. That leak was at the juncture of the new green aluminum flashing and the TPO, I'm sorry, it's the TPO roof and the asphalt shingle roof. And Pano gave us a price of $600, which administration's issued a purchase order to fix that, and that should solve the leaking problem that's on the library roof. Tennis court bids I already talked about. Tax map updates, most of them are done. The only thing that we really need left from Tim Henderson are the first floor elevations of the condo in town. That has to go on the tax maps now, so that's the only thing that we're lacking. The PFOA removal we talked about, we've given an estimate to Eric so you can look at it for budgeting purposes going forward. On Nixon Court, there was a drainage problem, which was either caused by ground seepage or someone's sump pump, but in any case it put water in the road and that water was going to leak to icing. So we hired RM Tuit to do a project to put a new inlet in and piping. They started on January 2nd, finished on January 3rd. If you like that kind of work, we're going to give them a chance to do some more work for that kind of thing. Southfield Pumping Station, this is the effluent pumping station. As you know, the pumps are probably 40, 50, 60 years old at this point. They need to be replaced. We were going out to, we're going to do it as a modification, but once we started looking at it, the cost exceeded the threshold, so we're going to bid it out. There had been a pump selected, which was a 150 horsepower pump, which would have done the job, although the pump curve was a little flat in the area we use it, and it would have required, because the current pumps are 100 horsepower, it would have required upgrading the electrical system. Fortunately, we've been able to locate pumps now that are 100 horsepower, won't require an upgrading of the electrical system, and probably won't require any repiping. So the pumps are, I think they're $4,000 more each, so that's $8,000, but it'll save $30,000 or $40,000 in terms of the other costs that go along with it. We would have had the bids already in by now, but we've changed it, and we now have a bid date of January 30th, because we did the addendum to put the 100 horsepower pumps in instead of the 150, and so we will award that, if everything goes along well, at the February 6th meeting going forward. I already mentioned 67 Gothel Road's been stopped, and lastly, you have the final payment voucher tonight for the DPW building. I did want to point out we had some increase. We did have one credit change order at the end. It's only $1,300, but it's still a credit change order going down. So the total cost you can see on it, I forget, it was 800 and something like that. It came out to about $142 a square foot, plus or minus, which is, you know, if we did it a block building, it would have been at least 200. So we did save a substantial amount of money. We did get a beautiful building. So other than that, Mayor, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Now call upon my Borough Administrator, Eric Maurer, for his report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just on the DPW building, even though we're authorizing final payment, there isn't an earlier payment that we had held because there is a claim by the building supplier that has not been resolved yet, so we're still holding the earlier one. So we've approved payment for everything, but we're not going to release all the payment until we know that that issue has been resolved between our contractor and his supplier. As you may recall, you approved a resolution authorizing police vehicles from Winter Ford back on December 19th. That fell through as they didn't have any more cars when we actually went to follow through on the purchase. We have found another vendor, Buyer Ford, under the Cranford Police Cooperative Pricing System, who can supply the vehicles. Added to your agenda tonight are a resolution to join the CPCPS and another to authorize purchase of the 3 vehicles using the money freed up from cancellation of the Winter Ford purchase. Those are resolutions R30 and R31 that were on the dais tonight. Other than stump grinding and about 10 trees for pruning, our tree contractor is caught up with the backlog tree pruning and removal list, fulfilling his commitment to do so. A new process is being put in place to help all parties stay on top of the work that needs to be done going forward. I'm working with a state contract vendor on the replacement of our copper radial tie lines with fiber. Details are still being worked out, but the current tentative plan is to use Verizon 2-1-over fiber connections, which will involve an upfront cost of about $25,000 for equipment, but would save us about $700 per month, or over $8,000 per year for the fiber connections versus the copper connections. And so that would pay for the equipment necessarily to do it in about 3 years. As reported last month, this is more than an effort just to save money, because as Verizon's continued commitment towards supporting and maintaining their copper lines is going to be going away, and that's going to be phased out. So we have to do this, and we might, if we can save money, we might as well do it sooner rather than later if we're going to have to pay the upfront costs. With the predicted winter weather over the next several days, I want to remind residents to adhere to the parking restrictions where posted, specifically not to park on the streets where signs say no parking when snow exceeds 2 inches at those times. Also, snow is not to be thrown in the street when clearing cars, sidewalks, and driveways. You need to clear the snow back onto your property. That prevents us from having a plowed street, then have snow in it, which then develops ice. And finally, snow and ice must be cleared from sidewalks within 8 hours of daylight following the end of the storm. We usually make this announcement towards the beginning of snow season. Fortunately, we haven't had much this winter, so I'm making it now. Another reminder, the deadline for renewal of dog licenses for 2019 is January 31st, after which there is a $15 late fee, so please avoid those costs. And finally, as the mayor mentioned, people can sign up for Nixle. We encourage to do that. We will give information regarding winter weather and road closures, and the way to do that is by either going to Nixle.com, that's Nixle.com, or by texting HAWTHWIRE to 888-777. Again, that's HAWTHWIRE to 888-777. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Eric. Council President will be happy to answer any question.
John, we'll start your way.
Thank you. Steve, on the new pumps, the 100 horsepower, is the torque on the new pumps different than the torque on the old pumps that you know?
You don't do pumps on torque, you do it on the pump curve, which is performance. And this one, these 100 horsepower pumps are the performance that we want. It's right in the center of the curve. It's really
Okay, all right.
perfect.
So the 150s are really overkill at that point?
The 150 would have been a flat pump curve, yeah. It would have been, you're much better off with the 100. Plus, the 100 costs less to put in because there's no modification left.
Is there a problem with the pumps now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're shot.
Yeah, they're only operating at about 25% of their capacity.
They're costing us a heck of a lot of money.
Which is okay now, but when we get towards the summer and we need more water, it's going to be a problem.
Well, it doesn't take long. Oh, that's the other thing, too. I didn't point out the 100 horsepower pumps have a much shorter lead time than 150 horsepower pump. So So they have like a 2-week lead time, and, once we get the bids in, to do the actual work is a few days.
That's all.
It's not that big a deal, because we don't think there's piping modification required. They are minor, and the electrical doesn't have to be modified. So it's pretty simple to put them in. Our goal is to have them in before April 1st, because that's when we need more capacity.
Do they have two-stage starters?
They do. No, that 2-stage, they've got soft starts.
Soft starters,
Right,
okay.
so they have VFDs with soft starts, so everything to make them last. I have to say, we do all the things that make the pump last as long as possible, but Hawthorne has done, as Bruce found out, marvelously well with the pumps.
Do we have 50-year warranties on these?
I mean, it's unbelievable. We have a lot of pumps, 50 years. I remember when Bruce said his first meeting, look, I've been here for 10 years and none of these have ever failed. And you shouldn't have said that. But we have done, it's a tribute to your guys who maintain them. They do a good job. They get the ultimate life out of these pumps.
Eric, on the co-op, the Houston Galveston co-op that we belong to didn't have anything?
We basically went to all the Ford dealers around and to find out who had vehicles on the lot. And Buyer Ford said they had them, and they said where they were available from was this Cranford Police cooperative pricing system. So we went with, it isn't a question of whether there's contracted vehicles. Nationwide, there's a shortage of the Ford Explorers because they cut off production because they're totally redesigning the vehicle and the pursuit vehicle, so they basically shut down the plants early so they can retool to start making the 2020 vehicles, and so you have to go where the vehicles are.
Yeah, okay. Now, just the last question on the copper versus the fiber. Is that going to increase our, I guess, capabilities on our repeaters throughout the town?
What do you mean increase the capabilities?
Well, as far as no more dead spots, because with the copper, there's a possibility that it could go down.
This is, there will be more reliable. We've had some issues with the copper, and Verizon has not been very responsive. They don't really want to support and maintain the copper, so we think we will do better from that. It will not specifically address any dead spots because we're not putting repeaters or
additional ones.
With this project. It's something else we can look at, but this is specifically to keep the existing equipment operating and in use, and to eliminate the growing numbers of problems we're having with the existing connections.
Okay, thank you. So, Frank.
Dominic. Question's been answered already. Bruce. John.
I'm not sure where we stand, if it's past the planning stages. We were talking, the band shell jogged my memory, I guess. I know we talked about lighting the pathway, permanent lighting on the pathway coming up from the parking lot, at the pool to the band shell, walkway.
Yeah, we had applied for a grant specifically for that. We got it, but by the time we paid for the band shell bathrooms, we had spent the money, so we will be applying again for this year with the next round of funding to try to get lighting.
Right. So, and when, we're going to go another season without it?
Yeah.
All right. My only concern, in the lighting we can handle, portable lighting, but the walkway, we saw what happened at Hawthorne Day. We have to do something with the elevation between the pool path and the field. It's got to be handicap accessible. So whether we eat that cost, or have Boswell take a look at it and come up with something, or ramping, or there's got to be something, some kind of landscape structure, or something hard paved. It's an accident waiting to happen at the band shell nights. The grounds get a little slippery.
It gets slippery, John. It's bad.
It's Hawthorne Day was a nightmare for anybody that had whether it was a wheelchair or walking. And it's a shame because the venue to put it up in the back was great. It worked out well, other than that one challenge that we have to overcome. So I don't know if I would wait.
Okay, we'll
for
talk
the
about
open space. I think we ought to take a look at it and see what our options are. It's from the front of the pool to the field. That elevation.
The elevation
Is there a
going
way
up.
we can regrade that and do something there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Can you take a look at that, Steve?
I think it's something we want to put a priority on for the ban shell season.
No question.
That's all I have.
Really?
What's that?
Dominic was asking if that was a big deal. I said, more than you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
It's surprised, the grade is
Hawthorne Day-
significant.
About a 30-inch increase in grade,
Yeah.
you're
If
gonna need a
John-
30-foot ramp.
I hope it's not a 30, but it is.
But it is,
Look at it,
you
it's
gotta go,
surprising.
yeah, 1 on 10, it's a long,
Yeah.
it's more involved than you think.
Right.
You have no idea how many people John took in the golf cart
I know.
up and down the hill just so people on Hawthorne Day could get up there.
Yeah, no, it's bad, and for band shell events, it's dangerous. We're waiting for somebody to just slip and go down on that, and shouldn't be.
Yeah,
Really
remember,
should
grade
be
for
widened,
handicap
too.
accessibility,
Yes.
Should
the
be
slope
widened
has to be
this
1 to
near.
12.
1 to 12.
Can't exceed 1 to 12, so that's quite a bit.
You may have to start at May Street and come up the path.
Well, I mean,
Seriously.
for every
You're gonna
inch
have
you
a
need foot.
return.
For
Well, you
every
may
inch
have to
rise, you need a foot.
Right, but you may have to, return it, that's all.
Serpentine.
But we gotta look at it. I think it's something we have to do. Not, That's it, I'm done.
Is there any updates on the PSE&G project that's coming to town?
Not yet. I think that what
Yeah,
I've
finish the
heard,
other one first.
what I've heard is that the work in the first ward may be delayed, maybe, and I don't have any confirmation of this, to 2020, because they're gonna finish everything in Haledon first, and then before they move past it. But that's sort of what I've heard. I don't have confirmation of that.
Because I do see that they've left some of their ditch witch. I figured they were coming soon because the ditch witch is in the pool lot still.
I think they donated it to the borough.
It's been there.
Well, I
Bring that up to
I
Goffin
think their
Road.
plan is to do the area on Lafayette Avenue Extension still. They're still planning on starting that in this spring. But, because there's a much
Well,
smaller.
then tell them to get their equipment out of our
Yeah,
lot.
when we set up the Christmas tree lot, that was 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving. It was there.
Okay,
It's still there.
okay.
And did you contact them and let them know there's still gas smells on Cornell where they
Yep.
said they were done?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the response?
They would look into.
Tell
it.
Frank to stop
jogging.
exercising.
I was jogging and I happened to smell gas. Actually, my excuse is I walk my dog.
And you smell gas.
Maybe it's the dog.
I'm a dog.
The same answer you give Joe. You'll walk your dog someplace else.
She goes where she wants.
And then-
But we'll get an answer.
And then lastly, I'm eager to point out when the garbage trucks do a horrible job, I will say that they did an excellent job on time this last week. Thank God.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Knock on wood.
And I also, if I can piggyback, I called Eric and had a good experience with B&B on recycling day last week. It was very windy, and they were picking up the loose bottles and cans on the road and throwing them in. I walked my container out, and the three guys that were there were very pleasant. Said, thanked them, and it was they were good. They're nice people,
So hopefully we will
Hopefully
get
it's a
over
good
the
trend.
hump.
That's all.
Okay.
Eric, I had one with the impending snowstorm coming. I know we had talked about the plowing at the end of Cornell between Utter and 208. How one side of the street has sidewalks on it and the other does not. And they seem to come down the side without the sidewalks and plow it all towards the side with the sidewalks. I know it's not our DPW, I think it's a small Downs pickup truck. Could you make sure that they go from the sidewalk side toward the grass side?
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm
This
just
is-
gonna
this
give the
is Cornell
residents
coming, I forget, this is Cornell.
between Utter and 208, on,
Okay.
we'll say my side of the highway. They just like to plow it from one side to the sidewalk side.
Part of the mayor's wellness program.
Well, I'd
Right
rather not
after-
field the complaints if we can
I agree with you.
foresee this problem before it happens and address
Agree
it.
with you 100%.
Is that including Beverly Road? You want to have them put in sidewalks?
Yeah, on the other side of the street.
And Steve, I had a question for you regarding the slab at the DPW building. It's my understanding that the slope doesn't slope towards the trench drain.
I heard that today, we're checking it tomorrow.
I'm hearing a squeegee is required to get the water in the drain, which is not nice to hear.
I agree with you.
Since it was a very beautiful slab, but I have a
Gorgeous
feeling it's gonna
slab.
be, I have a feeling it's gonna be lifted and re-poured.
Well, we're gonna find out. We're checking it tomorrow.
I hope not, but,
I hope not too. I hope-
indications are, if you've heard it twice, then it is.
Well, no, but my source is you. I heard it from Eric, who heard it from you. So but we're gonna immediately check it tomorrow. I've got an inspector going out with a smart level to look at it.
Did we hear anything?
Having a bucket of water, that works too.
Did we hear anything from
Well,
the director? From
It does, but a smart level is even better, because we can tell you precisely what the slope is.
Not a problem.
Why don't we contact the director?
I'm going to have,
Difficult for me to
I'm going to
believe.
have my
You know what I mean?
engineer
Difficult for me to believe.
measure it and also observe what happens with water on it, and to make sure that it's working. Or
Okay.
if not, what the solution is.
Can I have a motion to record the administrative agenda? No, before I do that, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, sorry. Motion by Bennett, second by Mealy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introduction of ordinances. We have ordinance 2219-19, an ordinance to fix the 2019 salary, wages, and compensation of the employees of the Borough of Hawthorne, County of Passaic, State of New Jersey. Be resolved that the ordinance number 2219-19 does now pass the first reading, and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at the meeting of the governing body at the Municipal Building, 445 Lafayette Ave, Hawthorne, New Jersey, on February 20th, 2019, at 7 p.m. At which time and place all persons interested will be given the opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish the said ordinance in the Hawthorne Press once, post on the borough website at least 1 week prior to the said hearing, with the notice of its introduction and time and place, when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. You have a motion? Motion by Bennett, second by Mealy. Any discussion? Roll call.
Woteki.
Yes.
Mealy.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Ruttolo.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ordinance 2220-19, an ordinance releasing an existing sanitary sewer easement over private lands and accepting an easement over and upon the same private lands in the place instead of such easement relative to property located at the intersection of Ray Ave and Fort Ave. Be resolved, this ordinance number 2220-19 does now pass first reading, and said ordinance be further considered for final passage at the meeting of the governing body in the Municipal Building, 445 Lafayette Avenue, Hawthorne, New Jersey, on February 20th, 2019, at 7 p.m. At which time and place all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish a said ordinance in the Hawthorne Press and post on the borough website at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with notice of its introduction of time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. You have a motion? Motion by Mealy. Second by
I'll second it.
Bertolo. Discussion. Michael, this is the one that you did years ago with Joe?
Yeah, this was Macaluso's had granted
gas
an
pipe?
easement to the
Yeah.
borough so that we could access a sewer line, and since they relocated their building, did all the construction, they had, as part of their approval, to relocate the easement for us. So this gives the borough the right to go over the easement to access sewer lines, and in addition, it vacates the
Previous
prior easement. And I had Darrell Sis do all the work on drafting the easements, so therefore was not at cost to the borough.
Even better. Roll call.
Bennett.
Yes.
Ruttolo.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Mealy.
Yes.
Woteki.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolutions. We have consent agenda R20-19 through R31-19. R20-19, the Borough of Hawthorne payroll dated January 4th, 2019. R21-19, debt service. R22-19, debt service. R23-19, payment of school taxes. R24-19, liquidate interfund. R25-19, award of contract for the tennis courts rehab project. R26-19, tax appeals. R27-19, Boswell Engineering for water service connections. R28-19, reallocation of CDBG grant funds. R29-19, change order 8 for DPW storage building, which is a negative one. R30-19, participation in the Cranford Police Co-op. R31-19, vehicle purchases through the co-op. Have a motion.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mealy, second by Bertolo. Any discussion? When we get started, do we know?
I think it will be
As we get it,
It's several weeks, it's not like immediate, that, you know, they have to finish fitting them out. They wouldn't sell them to us not fitted out, because quite frankly, that's where the dealer makes their money, because they make virtually nothing on the vehicle itself. And since there's a limited number of vehicles, they could basically say, we're not selling them except as fitted out. So it's gonna cost us a little bit more than otherwise, and it's gonna take us a little more time to get them in hand, so.
Roll call.
Yes.
Thank you. Mealy?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Bertolo?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Reports of special council committees. Joe, we'll start your way.
I have no reports.
John?
No report.
Bruce?
No report.
Dominic?
No report.
John?
No report.
Wow, I'm the only one.
Yeah.
The Chamber of Commerce would like to invite everyone to their annual Company of the Year dinner, which is scheduled for the 25th of January at 6:30. Anyone interested, please contact Meg at the Chamber. There'll be 3 different companies being honored, or 3 organizations. So please come out and support your local businesses.
How much are tickets, Cal?
60.
Yeah, well, I was doing that.
Oh, tickets are $60 per person.
How many more you want, Mayor?
I have mine, thank you.
Okay. Mayor Goldberg will be more than happy to purchase them for you. So,
I'll take one then.
bills. Can I have a motion to approve the bills and forward them to the treasurer for payment?
So moved.
Motion by Bertolo, second by Mealy. Any discussion?
I'm just telling everybody, I am gonna be voting no on Brave Industries for the paint that they did for May Street. The painting of
He's
the
looking
Mary
at
Street.
Mary Street.
Oh, Mary Street.
You
Okay.
said May.
You said May, that's why I was confused.
Mary.
Well, the painting was okay, it was the leftovers that were
Was that
bad.
May? I missed the R.
Roll call.
Bennett?
Yes.
Bertolo?
Abstain on Down Street Service, yes on all others.
Lane?
Abstain on the fire department and the ambulance corps, yes on all others.
Mealy?
Yes.
Watecki?
Abstain on the fire department, no on Brave Industries, yes on all others.
Do you have a check number?
One
kidding.
1802286.
Matthews?
Yes on all of them.
Motion carries.
Public comment. I now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address. All
Great,
two-
John.
All 2 of you. It's 50-50, you can be first. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Bertolo, second by Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. At this point, we're going to have some closed session to talk about some litigation. So pursuant to NJSA 10:4-13, Attorney General's formal opinion 29-1976, I entertain a motion to adopt resolution CS 01-19 that the public be excluded from this portion of the meeting in order that council may discuss litigation. Items to be discussed in the closed session can be disclosed to the public when the action is determined or a decision has been reached. May I have a motion?
Take care, John.
To call. Motion by Lane, second by Mealy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, let me check this. Okay.
Mike, want to get the mic?
Realize it takes an engineer and an